What's upper? This is Prima with the Just Prima Show. Tonight, I'll be talking about relationships in my life, important relationships, significant relationships. Have you ever had relationships? Most of us have, but those relationships are not always meant for a lifetime. We have people that are brought in our life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. We're born into our families. We didn't necessarily choose our family members, and my life has definitely been eventful when it comes to relationships. So again, I'm sharing my blood, love, and tears, talking about relationships. Stay tuned. I will be back in a moment.
Tune in. If you think you knew me, you didn't really know it all. I've been through my shared struggles and I'm still here standing tall. Never the type to fold. If I fall, I wouldn't fear. I'm giving you all of me. This my blood, love, and tears. If you think you knew me, you didn't really know it all. I've been through my shared struggles and I'm still here standing tall. Never the type to fold. If I fall, I wouldn't fear. I'm giving you all of me. This my blood, love, and tears.
I'm back. The first set of relationships I would like to discuss tonight is my relationship with my parents. I have my relationship with my mom, with my dad, with my grandparents, with my great grandparents, with my biological father, and my godparents. So, my relationship with my parents, I will start with my mom. I am going to say my relationship with my mom was close, of course, initially. It was challenging. At times, it was fun. I was able to talk to her. I feel like she is the only person on this earth that loved me unconditionally. We could talk about a lot of things. I definitely am different than my mom in a lot of ways. My mom, people would probably describe her as more serious, stern, to the point, very she wasn't a woman of a lot of words, many words, and I have a lot of words. She taught me to one, deal with consequences. In my choices, be sure that I'm able to deal with the consequences. She taught me to love and treat people appropriately, not take advantage of people, to treat people like I wanted to be treated, and particularly my siblings and my family. I felt like, based on her saying I was the strong one or the oldest, I there was not a whole lot of there was mercy, of course, but there was not a whole lot of things given or passes, I would say, because I was the strong one. I was the oldest one. I was the one that could handle more than some of the others. So I do appreciate her being stern and making me be strong and responsible and independent. I do appreciate those things about her because it made me who I am today. I I'm thankful because my mom really pushed stability. Where my dad, on the other hand, that I grew up with, my dad, he was fun dad. He would take us to three different restaurants if we wanted something different to eat. He was big on getting us stuff and things that we wanted. And as I got older, I began to see the difference in their relationship as far as priorities were concerned, which made me want to have a relationship when I grew up that we were on the same page. And as children, we were able to be manipulative and get stuff out of my dad when we couldn't get certain things out of my mom. So children know which parent to go to for what. So I was able to see that with my parents and try to be mindful of that growing up later. My grandmother, I was her first. My dad also taught me about work. And that was a good thing. So I learned about being a provider from my dad mostly, but he did not have a whole lot of downtime with us. We had times that we played and we had fun, and he wrestled and let us ride on his back, and it was fun. So my relationship with him was good overall. Later, as I stated in previous episodes, based on my parents' relationship, they they didn't know, just like a lot of parents didn't know how to manage us all the time based on their personal adult issues that they had going on, and they didn't always handle conflict the way that I try to handle conflict. And some things, I feel like they tried to not let some things affect us, but it did, or tried not to let us see certain things. And of course, children know when things aren't right, although parents think that children don't. So my parents tried to provide stability, structure. So my relationship with them was decent. We went through some challenging times as a preteen and teenager, and in my later adulthood, in my late 30s, late 20s, 30s, and 40s, I have had definitely different relationship with them. My mom was like my best friend before she transitioned, and my dad and I, as well as my mom, began to have a mutual respect for one another because I understood them as adults and understood them as parents and understood what it's like to be married and to be unhappily married. So that was my relationship with them. My grandparents, I was the first grandchild for my maternal grandmother. So I was spoiled. I feel like I was the apple of her eye. I had other grandparents that I feel like catered to me some, and as well as my other siblings later that came later. I felt like I could talk to my grandparents about anything. My grandparents, all of my grandparents were a little more religious, I felt like, than my parents. My grandparents, if I think about all of my grandparents, because I had maternal grandparents and great grandparent, I had paternal grandparents by my dad that raised me, and I had my biological father's mother, which was my paternal grandmother as well. Um, so they took me to church. They instilled church in us. God is love. You know, you work hard, you work diligent, try to live right. Almost all of them were married. Well, most of them were married while I was growing up. So I saw them interact with their husbands, but the women were quieter than me. They worked, they kept house, and they would be what I would say submissive to their husbands. So I was able to see those examples from them, and they, like I said, were more soft spoken than I am. I have godparents. I've seen pictures of my godparents when I was a child, and I was able to go spend some time with my godparents when I was 18 for a few weeks, and they lived in Augusta, Georgia, but I did not have a consistent relationship with them, and I have not seen them since I was 18, so I don't know where they are and what they have going on, or the God siblings. So I don't know, but I did have those, or for what it's worth, you know, godparents, from what I was told, are supposed to step in when your parents aren't or when they cannot. And some people take on the role. They are impressed and excited and feel honored when they are asked to be godparents, but not necessarily knowing what comes with, or traditionally what should come with, being godparents. What's up, or this is Prima with the Just Prima Show. Have you ever been walking through life feeling like you were alone, that you were the only one to go through what you're going through, and that no one could relate? If so, tune in to my show, Just Prima, JUSTPR1MA, on YouTube every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Also on Caribbean Live TV. See you soon. All right, now I would love to talk and share my siblings. With my siblings, I initially, being with my mother and my dad, I was the oldest child. I was the only child that I knew of at the time. I later, when I was almost 3, my sister was born that I grew up in the house with. And then a year later, I had a brother. So with my siblings, I was again the oldest. I was the caregiver, or the one that, like the little mom, and I always tried to make sure everybody was good. And I don't know if that was natural or if my mother or grandmother may have said, Prima, make sure the baby's okay or whatever. But I'm really thinking because I'm a girl and, playing with dolls and toys and stuff like that, that probably just came natural. And I have lots and lots of pictures of me nurturing and catering to my sister and my brother. We were very close growing up in the house together. We took baths together, we played together, we slept together, and had lots of fun growing up. As things shifted in my life, then of course, things shifted in our relationship. We were not as close. We were close, but not as close after the situations happened in my life, the sexual experiences. So we were not as close because I was quieter, or I didn't see a point in talking to them about things that they didn't understand, things that they couldn't relate to. And also during the time that I found out I was adopted. So because they were so much younger than me and I was young trying to figure out in my life, that was something else that caused um, a little space in our life. My sister and we were calmer. My brother was the only boy, the baby. He was very rambunctious. I always was the one that wanted to surprise my parents. I wanted to clean the house, cook breakfast, cook dinner, and 95% of the time, my sister and brother did not want to. There were times that I disciplined my sister and brother where I was like, I'm gonna whip y'all if y'all don't help clean up. And then my sister would try to tell, and I would be like, please don't tell, because I know I would get in trouble. But I wanted to surprise my parents at the same time. Um, my brother and I fought because he would bother our stuff, mess up our room. Yeah, we had a lot of fun times. Times that they would get in my bed and mess up my bed. And we grew up more, we became close. I got pregnant, had a baby, we were close. Spent a lot of time together. They were there when I had my children. And there again was a shift once we got in our late teens, early 20s. My brother was making choices, and I was always the big sister that tried to be the savior. My sister made certain choices, and me again being the big sister want to take care of my sister and clean up some of the mistakes, clean up some of the poor choices, or to be a buffer for some of the things that they were encountering or that they were going through and the choices that they were making, because I didn't have an older sibling when my parents were going through situations. So I was okay with my siblings coming to stay at my house, with my siblings being there and having an outlet, a place away from home with all the challenges that were going on with my parents after divorce. My siblings and I did things different. We were all kind of risky. We were kind of risky in some of our choices, and they just took different risks than I took. So there were times, me being the oldest, me being the a mother already, me being the one at times more logical, then we didn't always see eye to eye. Sometimes we wouldn't talk. My brother and I, we fought even as adults. And because I was big on respect, and I felt at times that I was more concerned about them than they were concerned about me, which eventually made me feel kind of taken advantage of. So I would fall back, and then, of course, if and when they decided to act right, then we had like kumbaya and we would try it again. My siblings, those siblings right now, I still talk to my brother periodically. I don't talk to my sister as much because we just have differences of opinion. And that's a part of life. You can't choose your siblings. I didn't choose my siblings. Those are the ones I grew up in the house with. At the age of 10, 11, after I met my biological dad, I found out that I had a brother who is like 7.5 months older than I. I met him at a train station in Atlanta because I wanted to know, okay, just like I found out I had a different dad. Oh, I want to know who my siblings are because who I grew up in the house with, all of them were the same. All of them are family, and I was the one that was different. So from my biological father and my mother, I am the only child. So there are no siblings that are all the same with my mom and my dad, biological dad. Later, after meeting my brother, we tried to have a relationship. We talked. We would meet up at the mall. We would hang out, my friends, his friends. So that was cool. It was different than the siblings that I grew up in the house with because our father really didn't foster us having a relationship and getting together on a regular basis. So me being the girl and the person that I am, I was the one that would call, and my brother would call sometimes for us to meet up and us to hang out and go to the mall, go to the movies, walk around town or whatever. So that was cool at the time. I also met a girl that my biological father adopted around this same time. So she is my sister. I met her and she was much younger. I cannot remember how many years younger than I am that she is, but I would say several years younger. Maybe 7 to 10 years younger. Later on, after that, my father, biological father, also had a baby when I was like 13, a boy. And that brother, yeah, he was born when I was 13. So I was there from birth with him. But again, that's from my biological father. I was excited because it was another baby. And that allowed me to also spend time with my biological father because we kind of had a strained or strange relationship. So being around that baby and the baby coming around my grandmother and all that, that allowed me to have a relationship with my brother. When I was 21, I found out I had a sister by my dad, and she was born when I was 12, but I met her at 21 after my grandmother's funeral, my paternal grandmother's funeral. At the repast or the gathering at the house, I was told that I had a sister. And at this point, she is 4 years older than my oldest son. So there were times that I would pick her up because she was in school, pick her up, bring her to the house, let her spend the night, take her out, go out to eat, hang out, and also take her around my other siblings so that we could get together. Because again, I was always the one that wanted to get us together and wanted to have this kumbaya, the siblings and the children, because my oldest brother was having children at the same time I was having children. So we have children around the same age, grandchildren, some. I have a lot more than him. And with all of those siblings, I would say, and my sibling that was born when I was 13, the boy, he has children, and my all of my siblings have children except one. And I have a relationship with all of them, some type of relationship. The relationship is not as organic or yeah, it's not as organic or as close as I would like for it to be. And when I was younger, it bothered me more because I wanted us to have this, oh, we're siblings and we love each other and we're happy and we spend time. But one thing I did learn, especially with my siblings that I did not grow up with, it's definitely harder or more challenging to have a relationship with them because we grew up different. We have different families, and again, our father did not foster us having a relationship. He didn't find it important to get us together. He didn't find it important for us to spend time together. And again, typically it was myself that would get us together or it would suggest it. Sometimes, I want to say sometimes my youngest sister may have, but 98% of the time, again, it was me that wanted to get all of us together because I was the one that was more forgiving, I would say, more forgiving. I was his nemesis, as he would say, the one that he loved to hate. We had like this love hate relationship because I would be the one to speak for all of us, or I would be the one that said what everyone was thinking and did not want to say. He could be a tyrant. And I would say my younger siblings were more afraid of him than myself and my sister that was born when I was 12. We were like, okay, we would like to have a relationship, but we all right if we don't. So the daughter that he adopted and the brother, they had a close relationship with him. They were able to spend time with him. They know him going to school, about, with them going to school and having day in, day out interactions with him that we were not able to have. So that was different for us. And he transitioned. I have one sibling that is no longer living, and all the other siblings are living. And with that, I will go on to my next subject, which would be my extended family. It's Prima with the Just Prima Show. Check me out every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube, Caribbean Life TV, and Just Justpr1ma, Prima. Look forward to seeing you. Stay tuned. All right. My extended family. With my extended family, I have lots of aunts and uncles and cousins. I have some nieces and nephews. With my aunts and uncles, I felt loved and accepted as a younger adolescent child. They've always known me to be verbal. They were most of them, well, different sides of the family. Some of them were religious. Some of them were not religious. Some of them were more involved in my life than others. There were times that my aunts and uncles, they were verbal too. As I began to go through my challenges as a preteen, teenager, then I could tell that there was a difference. I experienced, I would say, the wrath of the sibling rivalry of my grandmother's siblings. So there were some things that were said and things that were spoken and judgments that were made about me that was hurtful, that I did not understand at the time, because I felt like, oh, these are my aunts and my uncles, and these are people that's supposed to love me, and I love them and I respect them, and I believe that they have, like my grandmother, thrown up in heaven next to Jesus Christ. Later on, I found out otherwise because they lived a life before they, you know, met Jesus. I had other aunts and uncles that would come in town, and they were what I felt like my professional, educated aunts and uncles. They came in town. They had positive words. They stressed education and profession. We hung some, and their visits were short and quick. I felt accepted by I felt accepted by them as well. But I feel like our family, like my mom, my dad, my sister, and brother, we were different than this group of aunts and uncles because we just lived different. Our household was different. We were more laxed. Our parents were more laxed. So, not necessarily as professional and put together as that group of aunts and uncles. But I definitely did not feel different. I did not feel slighted by any of my aunts and uncles. Honestly, growing up, as a young child growing up, it wasn't until I became older, and a lot of things people assumed because they were in the distance, they weren't there for our day in day out interactions. And even in sharing some things on this show, they're learning things that they were not aware of, and or they're calling to tell me that, hey, this makes sense now, why there was a shift or why there was a change. And I have received some apologies, or some enlightenment because now they're enlightened. And they really didn't ask questions, from that generation. They just told us and said, but they weren't really interested in asking a whole lot of questions. Just like a lot of people's parents, although my parents talked to us, they really didn't ask how we felt or what we thought or what we were going through. I feel like we were little people, but we were little people that were not allowed to or encouraged to express our feelings, which is different than how I am and what I try to raise my children and how I try to experience my cousins and my nieces and nephews. Again, I have several nieces and nephews. I would say distant relationships with them because I have distant relationships with my siblings, with my nieces and nephews, all of them that I have been able to encounter. I've tried to embrace and be encouraging, get to know. There were some that I was closer to them when they were younger because I would go pick them up, spend time with them if their father or fathers weren't present. I tried to be present. If their mom wasn't present, I tried to be present. But eventually, it got old because it seemed like I was putting in more effort than effort was being returned. So I love all of my siblings. I love all of my nieces and nephews, all of my aunts and uncles and parents. We differ, we don't always agree. But at the end of the day, I do love and appreciate the family that I was born into. I can say that from my experiences with my family, it definitely it definitely made me want to be a different type of parent. And in being a different type of parent, meaning a parent that was transparent, that was able to talk to my children, to be understanding. I wanted them to know that I understood they were little people. They had feelings, and I really wanted to understand their feelings and understand where they were coming from and tried to treat them as individuals because all of us don't like the same things. All of us aren't interested in the same things, and wanting to know why they make certain decisions, why they feel a certain way, why they didn't do this, why they did do that, because no one did that with me. So with my family, they definitely have helped me to be a better person and a better parent. And not that things were all bad. Everybody's just different. I learned that everyone is different. I'll be back in a moment. Just Prima here. If you think you know me, stay tuned. I'm an open book. Check me out on YouTube at Caribbean Life TV, or I'm just Prima, Pr1ma. Please leave comments, questions, subscribe, and if you would like for me to email you back, email me at Prima, Prima, @gmail.com. See you soon. All right, let's go with my friends slash associates. I definitely have felt like I have been more of a friend to people in life than people have been to me. I have more associates. They might call me their friend, but most people I have encountered are my associates in life. I I have had some friends in life, friends from childhood, friends at church, friends in the neighborhood. I've had some friends from the workplace and social gatherings. And for me, I feel like most of the people that were my friends or that have been my friends were for a season, I would say, in my life, because so many things have happened in my life that I want to say those people, they served a purpose. Like some people served a purpose. So they was there for a particular thing. The associates, they were there for a particular thing. The friends, the few friends that I had, we grew on each other. And even though we don't talk to each other all the time, when we do get together, we talk, and we may talk 4, 5, 10 hours, and then we may not talk but a few times a year, once a year, catch up, and it's like we've never missed a beat. I have definitely, I've definitely been a loner for a long time. The things that I was interested in and the things that I was experiencing growing up, the people that were in my circle, it wasn't many that were in my circle that were experiencing the same things or that I felt comfortable sharing certain things with. Uh, they they didn't understand, or either their parents, especially at a young age, were different than my parents. Their household was different than my parents' household, or they just didn't discuss it and didn't share it. So how my parents treated us and how we moved in our house was definitely different than some of the peers that were around me. I remember being in school. I went to Christian school, but once I got to public school, Atlanta public school, I experienced betrayal in school. And I remember writing a poem for Atlanta public schools, and they published it in the newspaper, and it was about friends. And I guess it really scarred me because I wrote a poem about it. It was in the Atlanta public school newspaper. And again, my friends were few. I had my circle of people. I learned that kids were cruel, kids could bully, kids pick on when you're different. I spoke different, I dressed different, coming from a predominantly white school, going to white private school to a 100% black neighborhood public school, Atlanta public school. So it was different. And because I was lighter, because I spoke differently, a lot of times I had to be alone. I had to fight. I had to advocate for myself, and learning that at a young age, along with everything else in my personal life that was going on at home, I learned to advocate for myself, but also to have a very small circle. Some of the people that were around me, friends, they were different. You know, they did things different than me. Their parents may have danced and played music, or they drank and they smoked, or they shacked, as old school people say. Well, their parents weren't married, or their parents were married forever, and the mom was the typical housewife or whatever. So because the family dynamics were different, then my dynamics with my friends or peers or associates were different because we moved a few times. Then my friends changed also because we weren't in the same circle anymore. We had house phones, we did not have cell phones, so we did not stay on the phone all day, all night. We didn't Google, we didn't chat. So certain relationships were not necessary to keep because life was changing. Certain relationships changed because life for me was changing. And because I'm a person that can talk and I'm transparent as an adult, then that allowed me to say things and talk about things that I'm not really worried about people repeating or worried about being betrayed, so to speak, because I experienced things so much earlier in life, and because I am an open book, and because I know that God has allowed me, or the universe, whatever people want to call it, allowed me to experience so many different things, that I am an open book. And people ask me a lot of things, and I'm like, hey, well, what you want to know, and let's talk and let's chat. So I definitely can say that my friends, again, are few. My associates is a lot of them, and I'm thankful for the ups and downs in those relationships. There are some relationships that end when I left jobs, some ended when I left schools, some ended when I left the neighborhood, some ended because the those people that I was in some type of relationship with wanted the relationship to be more than what it was, or more than what I wanted it to be. And also some of my friendships as well as associations changed because I have learned through the years, and even recently, that a lot of people aren't okay with being genuine. A lot of people aren't okay with being authentic, being transparent, with being honest, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people in the world, no matter how genuine I have been and how authentic and truthful and honest I have been, I have had to learn several times, including recently, that people ask you questions, but they really don't want the answer. They want to hear you. They want you to be a sounding board. And I've learned that I needed to tell people first, let me say, I needed people to tell me that they only wanted me to be a sounding board, because there was a time I would tell people, well, don't ask me the question if you don't want the answer. Don't ask me if you don't want to know. Or I would repeat back when they asked me, I would say, hey, do you really want me to answer that question? I got away from that. I get away from that at times, because getting comfortable in those relationships, as honest and transparent and verbal as I allow other people to be, I have learned that everybody cannot handle, like the movies, you can't handle the truth. You say you want to know the truth, but you really can't handle the truth. And again, me being comfortable makes other people uncomfortable. I understand that I have stepped on some people's toes unintentionally, because the intention of my heart is always good. I always want people to win. And I have learned oftentimes that I want people to win more than they may want to win. Or I care more about people than I probably should. I have allowed people to get closer to me than I should have. And I have been burned a lot by caring about people, or sacrificing myself, sacrificing my time, being a listening ear and a helping hand and shelter and financial help, a lot of things that I felt led to do. So I don't regret any of those experiences. That's who I am. That's how the creator made me. But that has also been one of the reasons why people have also been transient in my life, because people don't always acknowledge or don't always try to make amends in time of wrong. And I am a person that typically tries to do that if I'm given the opportunity. And I have realized that a lot of people aren't able to do that, aren't willing to do that, don't want to be authentic, and don't want to say, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do it. And I am a person that's willing to do that. But I have definitely rubbed some people the wrong way by being too concerned, by getting too involved in their personal, and again, caring too much. So I have had people in and out my life, and some of those things I've chosen, and some of those people have chosen it as well. And me being myself, it was better for me, and it's better for me to tell the truth and to deal with them honestly. And I understand that because of that, my circle is very small. It's easier to have a smaller circle for me than it is. I don't need a lot of friends. I don't have a social group. I don't feel the need to feel accepted. I've never been in a sorority, in the who's who. You know, I'm me, fi me, Prima. And I do have a few close friends that I talk to that I use as a sounding board, that I could be transparent. I can let their hair down. They know my heart, so I'm not judged. Words are not misconstrued. And I appreciate those relationships. And I appreciate every relationship that I've had, because it's taught me things. It's taught me, you know, again, to love and accept people as they are. But because you love and accept people as they are, don't mean that you have to stay in relationship with them. People that have betrayed me, friends, associates, family members, spouses, I have learned to deal with them differently based on their choices. And in one of the groups that I do get with, the women that I get with, I remember learning a tool that I do try to practice now, which is, I apologize if I gave you the impression that it was okay to treat me this way. Or I apologize if I gave you the impression that it was okay to do this or it was okay to do that, but moving forward, it is not okay. And those people can decide whether they want to be a part of my life or not. I have also asked people to forgive me that hurt me, that betrayed me, people that are close to me. I asked them to forgive me because what I expected from them was different than what they were humanly capable of doing at the time. And I've also learned at a young age that just because I do something for someone or with someone and I feel a certain way, it's not going to always be reciprocated. So I learned at a young age, don't do and give expecting people to be the same. However, I have also learned that I'm human and I have had my feelings hurt. I have been disappointed. I have where at times people think that they're taking advantage of me, they really weren't. I allowed you to do whatever you thought you were doing. And again, me believing that you reap what you sow and karma visits all of us. So I don't have to get revenge like I felt like when I was young in my late teens, early 20s. I was like, vengeance is mine and I'm going to repay. I've had friends that, said I talk too deep. If we're out and we're hanging, and this was younger, out hanging and they're smoking and I'm drinking, we're out doing things and I'm like, oh my God, like, what if this happens to us? Or what if that happens to us? And my friends will be like, Prima, you're too deep. There you go. You blowing our high. You thinking about this, you thinking about that. And I was off in left field to them. So again, I marched to a different beat. And it wasn't until we got older, which caused some type of separation. I also had people that were around me that felt like I thought I was different or better. And I heard that recently too from some people that were that are acquainted with me. They don't really know me. These are people that were around my friends or my family. And because they don't know me, they just assumed. And because I wanted something different, or I strive to not be a statistic, or I wanted more than what my family had spoken over me, then I was perceived to be different than what I am. There have been people that have perceived me to be stuck up and bougie and unapproachable because she's light skinned or because she dresses a certain way. And the things that I have heard have definitely been hurtful or were hurtful growing up or younger before I became healthier and more whole as an adult. And I learned that a lot of times people speak out of their insecurities and out of their issues. And I can either choose to, again, answer to who they say I am or continue to be myself and let them be. So that has been my experiences with friends or associates. I will throw in there like coworkers because in the work environment, I am friendly. I pretty much treat people like I want to be treated until they teach me otherwise, that they cannot be trusted or treated as if they want to be in relationship with me, in some type of relationship with me. And if they don't, that's okay. I feel like the people that I'm supposed to be in relationship with, and for the time, season, or purpose that people are supposed to be in my life, they will. And when that time, season, and purpose is over, then I pray that my spirit in the universe lets me know and that I'm comfortable with the release, because there have been times that I know in my adulthood, younger adulthood, that I have allowed people to stay in my life longer than I should have, or I stayed in their life longer than I should have, whichever you want to call it. So with that, I'm going to take a pause and I'll be back in a moment. What's up, It's Prima with the Just Prima Show. I look forward to seeing you every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Search Just Prima, JUST Pr1ma, or Caribbean Life TV as I share my blood, love, and tears. See you then. Children. I'm going to talk about children, my relationship with my children. My relationship with my children has definitely been fun. It's been exciting. It's been scary. It's been tearful. It's been angry. It's been learning. It's been disappointing. It's been enlightening. It's been hopeful. It's been unconditional. It's been really never a dull moment. Um, yeah, with my children, it has been a whole lot. They have definitely helped to raise me, my older children in particular. And I can honestly say that I am their friend. I can say that I feel like at times my children have taken advantage of me. At times my children have taken me for granted. At times my children have surprised me because the things that I thought they weren't listening to, or I thought it wasn't getting in, wasn't sinking in, I have later found out that it did, and I'm thankful and grateful for that. I, again, as I stated before, I'm grateful that I was blessed to have children because there are so many people that were not blessed to have children. I have definitely met people, and particularly with me working in the medical field, that are alone because they don't have children. Their children have left, died, or chose not to be a part of their life. So I am thankful that I am blessed to have children, and I pray that when I get to be an old lady, that I am a pleasure to be around and not a burden and not someone to cause headache and heartache in their life, because some parents do that, and that's definitely not what I want to do to my children. And I look forward to continuing to have a wonderful, exciting, less stressful, abundant relationship with my children and my grandchildren. And I have been transparent and honest and encouraging with my children and my grandchildren, and I am their biggest cheerleader. I do talk to my children normal. I fuss, I cuss. I'm cynical. I make them laugh. I make them cry. They make me laugh. They make me cry. So my relationship with my children again has been eventful. Let me say eventful. I'll never give up on my kids, and I never wash my hands of them. So they are my lifetime relationship. What's up, or this is Prima with the Just Prima Show. Have you ever been walking through life feeling like you were alone, that you were the only one to go through what you're going through, and that no one could relate? If so, tune in to my show, Just Prima, JUSTPR1MA, on YouTube every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Also on Caribbean Live TV. See you soon. My last topic, I think, for tonight is going to be my relationship with men. My relationship with men slash marriages. So, my relationship with men, I could say, because I had such challenging relationships with men up into adulthood, I did not really trust men for a while. Men were people that let me down in my life, men that hurt me, and men that did not always keep their word. I got married at 17 the first time because the church told me to get married. My grandmother, my aunts, my uncle, that was the right thing to do. I had an uncle that married me. And I was laughing because almost every relationship that he married, every couple they divorced. I need to do a track record. So if any of my family is watching, I want you to verify if the uncle that married me, that married a lot of us, if all those marriages failed, because I almost want to 100% say they did. Anyway, um, because it was through religion or works that we were married more so than being equally yoked in love and all the good stuff, the fluffy stuff that I hoped for in marriage. I can later say I got married a second time to someone that was, it didn't last, it was a few months, and then I got married the third time, and that was a longer marriage. What I realized once I was married the third time is that there was a pattern, I would say, where I thought, I heard in the past that we as women a lot of times choose men that are like our fathers. And for me, I had my dad that I grew up in the house with, and he worked and he was emotionally unavailable at times. He was not as present. And even talking to him now, a lot of things that I remember or in talking, he is not as mindful of, or like he said, he really just didn't go into depth with feelings. And of course, that's where he comes from. So that's why he didn't do it. The men that I chose, I feel like were more similar to my biological dad because of he was not present. He made a lot of broken promises. And I felt like because I did not like being judged and I did not like people almost prophesying or saying what you're going to be, what you're going to turn out to be, what's going to happen in your life. So, not saying that I made the best choice in spouses, but when I saw the flaws or I saw the red flags, I was still hopeful or encouraging and allowed them to be, I would say, codependent on myself because I wanted them to win, probably more than they wanted to win themselves. And me having children by them, ideally I wanted to be married one time, have the kids with the one man, live happily ever after. If one child doesn't have a dad, nobody will have a dad. It won't be a child with this dad and that dad, based on my experiences growing up in the home. So I did not want that. However, I also, after learning that I wanted to live something different than what I was taught in the church, I knew that I deserved better, and I was tired, and I prayed that God gave me the strength to walk away. And then realizing that he had similarities to my dad, because my dad told me, my biological dad said that if he could not have my mother, he wouldn't do anything for me, or he didn't want to be involved with me. He would see himself dead. And to marry someone, my older kid's dad, the one I married at 17, when I decided I did not want to be involved in the things that he was involved in, the activities that he was involved in, the infidelity and all of that, then he told me that either I was going to have to stay with him because no one would want me with 4 children, or he would not be involved in the children's life. So hearing that in him, the change from when we were younger, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna be there with the kids, we're gonna be here forever. And because his dad was present at times, but his dad was emotionally unavailable as well. I believed, and I still believe that that was his hope, that was his intention, but he did not know how to handle his emotions. And he felt like I should be his forever, no matter what, because that's what church teaches you. No matter for better or worse, no matter what, you're supposed to stay together forever, and da 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 da. And I just did not believe that that was all that God had for me. And I do not regret getting a divorce, but I do know that I chose someone in him that was similar to my dad unknowingly. The second one that, he lied about the children he had. He lied about how many times he had been married. So we were only married for maybe 2 or 3 months when I found out, and I was out the door. So with him, I felt like he was similar to my dad because my dad could go on and act like he didn't have any children. He could say he had however many children he wanted to say because we were not a regular part of his life. Um, the women that he was involved with knew that my mom was his only wife and would be his only wife, but he still went on to have children and not take care of the children like he should have. So the person that I married second, he told me he had 2 children. He had 5 children. He told me I was the second wife. I was the third wife. So I did not want to be with a liar and someone that I didn't trust, which were things that were similar to my biological dad. As far as not being able to trust, that was similar to my dad that I grew up in the house with, because again, due to his good intentions, I could not trust him. And a lot of things began to be lies out of good intention, where the second person that I married was more deceptive, like my biological dad. So again, the bad taste in my mouth when it came to men, but choosing men again unknowingly similar to my biological dad because I wanted the love and affection and the attention of my biological dad. And I could not understand how he said he loved me as much as he did, but he wasn't present and he didn't protect me and he didn't teach me and he was not a confidant. And there were times that my dad if I did not, meaning my biological dad, because I was not as embracing as I got older, then he would call me out my name. He would call me the B word. It's my blood that runs through your vein. It ain't that other nigga's blood, that other guy's blood, because you might have to take that out. I don't know. But um with that being the case, it made me become combative and angry and upset, and I began to be that way in my first marriage because of my hurt and my anger and my disappointment and the betrayal and the lies and the lack of trust. I became angry and volatile and more verbal and using profanity, things that I did not do before. And going to support groups for adult children trying to become healthier and whole after leaving the club. There were some relationships that I had after leaving the club, and those relationships were with guys that were older than me, gentlemen that were older than me, but they were guys that definitely they definitely treated me different than the fathers that were in my life, as well as the other men in my life and the first husband. And for me, they helped to set a standard. They kept their word for the most part. And from those healthier men being in my life, not saying that they were healthy, but the healthier men being in my life, that is what made me change my mind, because there was a time that I said, I'm never getting married again. You know, I ain't thinking about no man being in my life again. I forget about happily ever after, because I was always happily ever after, the white picket fence, the house on the hill, the pets and all that. That's still what I wanted. And I used to say, I'm gonna be like, if I have to be like Elizabeth Taylor, I'm gonna do it again and do it again until I get it right. And after going to the support group, that's what gave me that perspective that, you know, sometimes we just make wrong choices when we get married. Sometimes, you know, we need to pray and ask God to soften our hearts, to allow us to be open to love, and know that we made some choices on our own, that we went in with our eyes wide open. We had red flags, you know, things happen, and we just ignored the red flags. Like, you know, some things are funny to me now because I went in with my eyes wide open with the second person, and I remember saying, "Oh, if it rains, it's not gonna work. It rained cats and dogs." I lightened the unity candle. The candle fell apart. I didn't want to kiss him. You know, just different things in my heart. And I still went through it. And I said, you know, I remember telling my dad and the pastor that I don't know. But it was like I was under this spell. And I said I should have been like the runaway bride, but I went through with it anyway, because why? Everybody was there, and because we had spent all this money and people had traveled, and I should have went with what was in my heart and my first mind, and just said no when I got the signs. Um, but I didn't, and that's why that marriage happened, and it was over in a few months. Got married the third time. Well, not the third time. I said I was gonna date somebody first, date them for an extended period of time. You know, let me wear the shoes first and see what they're like. Um, and later found out, oh, you know what? This person is a musician like my dad. And this person has children that he wasn't necessarily present with. And I was told a different story from him than I was later told from his children and the children's mothers. But I accepted him for what he was and did not judge, and hoped and believed that he was telling me the truth. I With him, I believe that he should have just been my friend. He was someone that was there that could be some male advice for my sons. And with that, I feel like he should have just been for a purpose or a season, but I tried to make that person a lifetime. And in that lifetime, because I had gone through so many other things with men, I wanted someone that was going to be my friend, someone that didn't like me or wasn't always talking about my outward appearance or my attributes, or somebody that I could be intimate with without actually having intercourse. So, or without everything turning into sex. So the friendship was good. I believe that when I married him, initially not knowing that he had so many similarities to my biological dad that I put him out of place. I put the relationship out of place. And when I put the relationship out of place, there were consequences for that. And because my life was so eventful with my teenage, preteen children, it became stressful for him and stressful for myself. So I tried it. We had children. It was definitely, I think, in every relationship, things were better. Like things got a little better than the one previous. I remember in infidelity, the last marriage, I remember asking my dad, calling my biological dad, and I remember saying, "Hey, why couldn't you just?" And I was crying, and not that he really had an answer, but I needed someone to go to. I needed someone to talk to because I was hurt. I was disappointed. I felt betrayed. I felt like he was different than the ones prior to him. And to realize that he was very similar, I was able to call my biological dad and I was like, why couldn't you just love me? Why wasn't I enough? You know, and if you had loved me enough, maybe I would have made better choices. If you had been present and been the dad that you said you would be, maybe I would have made better choices. So in all of that, I chose men that were like my dad. And the patterns were similar. And me trying to be this helpmate or supportive or in fixing. And because, you know, as women, sometimes we need projects and stuff to fix, or we try to love them to life or whatever. Um, I'm thankful for the children again that I have. The relationship served a purpose. Would I get married again? Or would I have a life partner and would I get into a committed relationship moving forward? I would. I think that we should look at what I have learned is that look at the red flags, watch them, pay attention to them. Every relationship, if you're open to it and if you're honest about them, they all add to your suitcase of life. They add to your story. Those relationships, all of my relationships have helped build character, has made me aware, has made me see that I'm not perfect, that I'm still learning, that I can make mistakes, that I have flaws, that even in all of my good intentions, sometimes your good intentions are not enough. Um, People are in the world, people make the world go round, and my relationships definitely are far, wide, eventful, sad, fun, and I am thankful. I'm thankful because I've had a lot of experiences. I'm thankful for all the relationships that I've had, even the ones that made me cry, the ones that made me mad, because it's built muscle, it's built character, it's made me wiser. So, with that, I will end. I think I've said everything that I need to say. I think I've shared everything that I need to share. I realize that everybody is not supposed to be my friend. Everyone is not supposed to be a part of my life. People are either in my life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and I'm sure lots of people have heard that before, but I've definitely learned that, and I pray that I learn to hold on to who I need to hold on to and release who I need to release, that I continue to treat people like I want to be treated, and that those that are in my life, that they truly understand my heart and that my heart is always with good intention. I, for sure, in my healthier adult years, have not intended to hurt anyone, have not intended to disrespect people. I don't always make the mark because I have at times treated people like I felt like they were treating me, or not always said things the way I wanted to say them, because I have learned that sometimes delivery messes up the whole thing. So I try to be conscious of my delivery when I'm speaking to people, because ultimately I want them to get the message and not be turned off by the way I speak or the way that I handle situations or the way that I give the messages. And with that, I am going to end tonight. I'm going to say again, thank you for watching as every week as I share my blood, love, and tears. It's been a pleasure. I wanted to do pop-ups tonight and just bring up relationships opposed to being as scripted. And Please tune in every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Just JUSTPR1MA, and also on Caribbean Life TV. I would love it if you would like, share, and subscribe. I don't have a whole lot of subscribers. Turn on your notification bell, and I will see you next week.